Hello, everyone, and welcome into the State 48 podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Matthews, bringing you all things AZ. And today we have literally the queen of sports media here in the Valley, Miss Jody Jackson, Jody J. So excited to have you here
Lisa,
today.
it's so good to be, like, you and I have done so many shows over the years. This is so cool. I love your studio. I love everything
here,
about it. Yeah.
I know. Well, like she said, we have some background here and close friends, and we worked together in the past. We'll get into all of that. But first, I wanted to do a huge congratulations because I saw and found out that you just earned National Sports Media Association for Arizona Sportscaster of the Year. So
thank you. I know. The call came into me from a man named Dave Gorin, who kind of organizes it throughout the country. I don't know how he does it. He's a reporter himself in North Carolina. And I'm like, how does he organize all this? And I'm just like, how did I get this?
Of course you got this.
Well, and he said, it's your peers voting and something. So thank you to my peers. And I'm very honored. And there's obviously a lot of great broadcasters, and many of them have already won the award in town. So it's fun.
Seriously, no one more deserving. And we'll get into just your background and all the things. But first, I like to do a little game in the beginning.
I like games.
For all your fans watching in so they can know a little bit more about you. Okay. And I picked it off based off of what I know about you already, kind of. Okay. So it's finish the blank or sentence.
Okay.
Or whatever. I haven't even named this game officially.
It's fun. It's a fun way to start it.
Okay. So my favorite beach is
Hollywood Beach, Florida. You might even know that because I've talked about it.
Yeah, I do know that.
It's not Fort Lauderdale. It's not Miami. It's kind of in the middle. It's Hollywood.
What makes it your
that's
favorite?
Where I grew up. It's where I grew up. We used to, when I was in high school, when I was in grade school, we'd have my birthday parties down there, and like my friends in high school, we'd all hang out, go to the, you'd stay all day and get sunburnt. That's what we did. And pizza place right there. Cannot remember I think it's called, no, not Nick. Nick's was the restaurant, but it's a great beach. I love it.
I want to go to the beach right now.
I know,
in this
right?
weather. Okay, this might be tough, but favorite or best sports memory that you have? Doesn't have to be working, but just experience-wise.
Well, there's two really big, it doesn't have to be the big moment, right? But we have had two in town since I've been here. Among the sports that I cover, that is, there have been a lot of big moments. But it would be in 2001. I was only here 1 year, and I was covering the Diamondbacks here and there. Charm. Well, yeah, I don't know. It's funny. Todd Walsh, my coworker, we both came in around the same time. I came in to work in the Arizona Sports Report, covering like literally everything in town that was sports. ASU, the Mercury, all the major sports, everything. But so the D-backs, I was out there like a little bit, not every single game. Todd was kind of covering them. He was hired shortly after me to cover them and go on the road and the whole thing. Back then we only did like 70 some games, but I was able to be there though for all the playoff games and everything. I was there for home games, so that was amazing. It wasn't. I know you've talked to Luis Gonzalez. I'm sure that was a big topic among other things with him. But just that moment and the way that it unfolded and the craziness of that inning, and so cool. Yes. It was so cool. And then the other one, which ended in heartbreak, was the Cardinals 2008 Super Bowl, where I was in the tunnel waiting to go down. Larry had just scored, and it was 2 minutes and 37 seconds left. And I remember hugging Darren Urban in the tunnel. And it's like, we're journalists, right? But we're kind of fans. So, and it wasn't just Darren, even like Kent Summers, I think. I just remember we were all so happy that we were showing that joy. You can't do that in a press conference, but you can do it in the tunnel, right. And we did. And then it was like to see them lose was just.
And then the toe drag.
Yeah. And then it's just, the weird part about it is when you lose the Super Bowl, we did go out on the field after, but the players don't go back out. You just are in the tunnle and you're interviewing sad players that are crying, and you don't even, it's like it's over. So
that's a big moment, maybe not your favorite.
Those were both really big moments, but great for, when you look back, and it was hard to process that night, but, a great moment for the franchise.
Exactly. Okay. Favorite, this is a tough one, but favorite athlete to interview. I hate when people actually ask me this question because it's hard to pick and choose. But over the years, who would you say?
I hate to keep giving you toss-ups here. I keep you're asking me a question and I'm giving you two answers. Kurt Warner and Shane Doan.
Podcast.
Kurt Warner, Shane Doan are right up there for me. Just both so insightful in so many ways and just great guys. And it's hard to pick between those two, you know?
Do you still see Donor a lot?
I do.
Yeah.
I see him a lot.
We need to get him on the podcast.
Mullet Arena, you see everyone.
That's true.
You see everyone, and they're like standing right next to you. And, you know, it's funny. My son's girlfriend, she loves hockey, and her family loves hockey, and they went to a game. And, you know, when he came to visit me on the set, you know, that set area is a little bit private, but you know, it's still, there are people that walk by and then they see Shane Doan, you know, it's just like, so they got to take some pictures with him and he was happy to take pictures. And
Hold up, your son has a girlfriend? I cannot process that.
Yeah.
I remember when he was a child.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. This is a tough one too. I'm really putting you on the spot here.
That's
Favorite Arizona sports team?
Oh, well, you know I can't answer that.
I mean, I figure this is the direction
Devilback Sports. That's my that's the youth teams that my husband has created in Tempe, South Tempe,
I
Chandler
thought you
area.
would go in the direction of
Devilbacks.
ASU. Yeah, Devils.
Well, yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, we do love it. I kind of married into the ASU thing, as Lisa knows about that. And my husband played there in the early 90s, played football, but you know, I'm still pretty loyal to Miami, so, you know, that's my alma mater. So I can't answer that, Lisa.
It's tough. We all have a reason why we love
It's like a child, favorite child. You can't
favorite
do
child. We're not going there. Don't worry, kids. How about if you could do anything else other than what you're obviously doing, what would it be?
You know, that's interesting because like yourself, because you're really motivated and you love a lot of things in life to, you know, spend your energy on, your family first, of course. So I've dabbled in a lot, like I teach a class at ASU. I kind of have a little side wine business for fun and throw wine parties, you know, like to have a party. But, you know, I think about that sometimes and I like planning events. I like the teaching aspect. So maybe doing more with maybe becoming more involved in that someday. But kind of both of those little side gigs that I have, I like both aspects of that. Something to do, you know, when you talk about event planning or if you talk about teaching. So,
well, you just threw a whole wedding, so I'm sure it was beautiful and spectacular. You got to.
It was at our house in the yard, and I will say though that Jerry Miller, who was the bride, she and her family did a lot. Not to say that our friend Margarita didn't do a lot, but she did a lot of the wedding stuff. And so planning.
Oh my gosh. Well, this is so fun for me. One, because, I mean, going all the way back, I'll never forget, you know, I was cheering at ASU and I would see you everywhere at the time. Fox Sports at the time, Arizona covered ASU, all things. And there you were. And I just was always that person paying more attention to the game and then everything else that was happening around the broadcast. I was just always so intrigued by that. And I remember I like cornered you in the women's bathroom. And I was like, I want to do what you do. And you were just so gracious and nice because I'm sure a lot of people come up to you and like, you know, ask you those questions or pique interest. Then full circle, I ended up actually pursuing that and essentially being your intern.
You were an intern with us and you were awesome. You were one of those interns like you never forget. You did so much. And then, of course, we hired you.
Yeah.
So, because, you know, the good ones get hired.
But, I mean, it was so much of like your mentorship, honestly. I'll never forget being in the shadows, watching you, you know, just the way that you handled your business. So professional, but also so gracious in that you knew I was looking and taking notes of everything. I just was like, you were my idol. I wanted to, you know, really emulate the way that you know, you did your job. You continue to do your job so well. But I want people to know a little bit more background of you and how you got into this. Because for me, when I saw you doing this, it was a connection of there is a badass female doing all the things that I want to become and do. So I think it's really interesting for people to kind of know the backstory of how, you know, what paved your way into the sports scene here.
Well, first of all, I want to say now you are that person and you have been that person, not only, you know, at Fox when you were working for us and doing digital stuff and shows and baseball coverage, Coyotes coverage, and then at the Cardinals for so many years. Yeah. And so I'm so proud of you and what you're doing now.
This is like a love
you have your own
right
podcast. You have this beautiful studio. I mean, it's amazing. So now you're that person and young women are looking up to you. So it's cool. I'm going to cry right now.
This is very emotional. No, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
So, but thank you because you reaching out to me and that's how it starts, right? So for me, since, you know, I'll get to my story now
Take it
before we
back.
break
Yes.
down. Growing up, I loved sports. It seems like you and your family and your sister and just, your parents. I mean, I think it was probably the same for you. I grew up in a household where we loved sports, watching it on TV every night, baseball in the summer, football in the fall. There wasn't really a lot of hockey down in South Florida when I was growing up, but once the hockey team came down there, I jumped onto that. Basketball, I was a big Miami Heat fan when, back in the day when, gosh, I'm dating myself. When I was really little, when I was a kid at the Hollywood Mall, I had the Glenn Rice.
Yes.
I don't even know if you know. Glenn Rice used to shoot 3-pointers for the Miami Heat. And I'm like, I had his card, so.
I love it.
I loved the Braves and Dale Murphy because we didn't have a team in Florida yet. So we watched Atlanta on TBS. And then, of course, the Miami Dolphins. I loved the Dolphins and the Miami Hurricanes, the Hurricanes were kind of our pro team, I feel like, for when the Dolphins weren't so good. And the Miami Hurricanes were dominating. So that's how my love for sports started. And then when I got into college, I just knew I wanted to major in broadcast journalism. And when I was younger, I didn't see a lot of women doing sports. So I think for me, it was almost like I wanted to tell stories, be a reporter. So whether it was a print, I used to say, I wouldn't mind doing print journalism. I would like doing TV, or radio or, whatever I could get into. So at Miami, I majored in broadcast journalism and didn't really do a ton of sports. I wrote for the newspaper, did get out of college and look for that job, that ever elusive first job.
Yes.
I sent out my horrible college, I would say VHS, but
do you still have it? Your tape?
Yeah, I have like a 3/4 inch tape that, there aren't even those machines around anymore. Like no one has the machines. So no one can see it, thankfully. But, you'd partner up in college with someone and it's just, Cronkite is so advanced now. It's so great. Like they have great equipment and all that. But I remember me and my partner back in the day, Christina, like we'd be out shooting and like she'd be cutting my head off. And, it was just a horrible tape. So I didn't know, and I wasn't very good. So I didn't get a job in, like in all these small markets. I was sending the tape, I was like, thanks, but no thanks. So I cold called the sports radio station in town, which was WQAM 560, got a job there. I mean, that's where I fell in love with sports media, like the immediacy of it back then before Twitter and all social media. Yes. It was sports radio. Mm-hmm. And I loved like back when WFAN was a big thing and on the East Coast, everyone listened to like New York radio and those personalities that, came out. So I loved working there, did that for 2 years. A lot of people were like, hey, didn't you say you wanted to do TV? Don't you want to make a reel? Don't you want to do, advance this
Not
thing?
Not the reel on Instagram, y'all, okay?
No, like back then, again, a tape. How's your tape? It wasn't like a link. There was no link. So
no link.
I did eventually make a broadcast tape with the help of some great photographers down there that helped me out. Got a job in Buffalo, New York, CBS affiliate. Was nervous going up there. Had never done television. But it
from Miami to Buffalo.
Yeah,
to
that first winter was pretty rough. I was like, this jacket I have is not cutting it. I need like a big jacket. Covered the Bills, the Sabres, a lot of high school football and things like that. Really enjoyed that. Then, once I kind of built a resume there, the Fox Sports Regionals were hiring a lot of people around 2000. So I came out here in May of 2000 and I had the choice of Atlanta, Denver, or Phoenix. I knew some people out here in Phoenix. Phoenix was really intriguing to me. And I look back at what a great decision. I mean, not only because here is where I met my husband and, settled here with my children. But it's, and this is a great place here at State 48 to kind of think about that because Arizona is a really unique state. It's a melting pot of people, and yet it has its own great history, and it's so unique and wonderful and magical. I mean, I love Florida because it's got the beaches, but Arizona has its own charm, and a beach is probably the only thing we don't have, and I guess we do if you count, if you count Tempe Town Lake or Havasu or some of the Great Lakes, but it's really cool to think about that decision because I go to Phoenix Open now and I'm like, oh my gosh, this used to be this tiny little golf tournament when I came here in 2000. And now it's just ridiculous. So I came at a very explosive time for this market, which was perfect. Our teams haven't always been, the best, but it's just we have everything you could imagine here, I think. And I think you probably feel the same way. I know you're a native, so, you know,
You're
but
basically in Arizona now.
I'm getting there. 23, going on 23 years. So
wow.
love it. I just love it. And here I am, Fox, Bally, basically the same job for, you know, the job has changed a lot. Like when you and I were working together, things haven't changed that much from that time, to be honest, but I've learned so much. I learn every day. You know, people say, do you still enjoy it? I said, I enjoy it so much. And I actually was listening to Gail King of CBS Mornings talk just yesterday about how at her age, I think she said she's 68 and she still loves her job every day. She loves local news. It's where she was brought up through. And like for me, regional sports is what I love. I mean, it is. I make no apologies. I absolutely love it. I mean, national networks and stuff, that's its own. You kind of jump from city to city, but I take a lot of pride in knowing the people in this city and the athletes and the people that make it go. And it's cool.
Because so much of that, of what you do, like you said, is storytelling and having that connection to the Valley, to the teams, getting to know the players. That just makes you that much better in the role
and
that
a
you
lot
play.
of players stick around here, and you know you're interviewing them now. It's like, why do they stay? Well, because it's a pretty awesome place. So
that's pretty incredible, though. Looking back, I did not know that this is technically like this was your second job in the industry, correct? In
TV, radio, and then television in Buffalo, and then here,
Wow.
Yeah. And then when my first contract was up, I remember meeting with a couple of the local stations. They were interested in like bringing me on, and I just love the regional sports, you know, networks gig. Being part of the games to me is great. As you know, as a mom, it's never easy, especially when they're little. Like if you're going to be away in the evening every night, it's hard. But I like being
out of cooking dinner.
That's true. That is true. Unless you throw something in the crock pot once in a while, you got to give that little effort.
I do love your pot pies. That's one thing I remember.
The one thing I brought you after was it
one of the kids.
After one of the kids was born. One of the first two. I cannot remember.
I love it.
But yeah, I mean, I hold my own there now. I've gotten a lot better. I was pretty horrible. I was not a good cook in the beginning.
Well, you never had time to cook if you think about you're in a game.
Gotten better, I guess. But yeah, it's so, but I like, you know, if I'm going to be away, I'd rather be at the game, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's what I enjoy.
Experience all of that. Yeah. What's crazy too is how much when you think back when you landed the job here in Arizona, 2000, was that 2000?
2000, yeah.
How much have you what you do say is the same, but how much have you had to just pivot and go? Because then came Twitter, then came Instagram. I mean, just working alongside you at Fox Sports was like, oh, do this cut up for the internet, do this cut up for Twitter. It's just, how much have you had to, in a sense, stay true to who you are, but evolve with everything that media has come to be now?
It's a lot. I mean, as you know, and you're really good at a lot of that stuff, and a lot of people are better at it than I am. In the beginning, it was just Twitter and maybe YouTube. Now it's like everything. The people that work in social media and are in charge of that, how hard is that? It's like Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, maybe TikTok.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't. You know, I think sometimes it will bog me down if I think about all of that stuff. So I just kind of pick and choose, and I maintain that number one is the TV product, right? Or TV or streaming, you know, you can basically interchange those these days, right?
Yeah.
So the television product, the on-air network product, and then the other stuff is like, yeah, I try to do it, but it's a little bit of gravy. And to be honest, it's more of a personal thing, right? So that's not in my job description to do that. So as much as it's great to promote the personal brand, I mean, I sometimes I have to focus on the network stuff and what I'm really doing. So that always comes first. But it's a lot. I mean, in the beginning, I was doing packages and sideline reporting. Now it's more of hosting shows, coming, part of original programming. So it's a lot of, some of it's similar, but it's been different over the years.
Do it all. Yeah. Literally do it all on the spot.
Well, and the baseball job is a little different too. Like in the beginning, again, when I was doing live shots or packages and sideline reporting, and then when you go to become a baseball reporter, that job is very unique. It's different than doing like a football sideline or basketball, which I was doing. But the baseball's kind of like, it's more, you know how it is. Like the cameras are just anywhere, so you can be almost anywhere. You can do almost anything. You just have to fit it in the confines or constraints of a baseball broadcast, which is also not easy to do. So, and then hosting pre and post game. So
yeah, you're a beast. You are.
I mean, it's just doing it well. It's just every day. I think that's what I like, though. Every day is different. So one day, if you try something and it's not the greatest, you're like, okay, well, I'll learn from that one.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what I think, a lot of pressures I remember like coming out. It's like to be, perfect, right? As soon as that light turns red, it's like, oh my gosh, make sure everything comes out eloquently and you get all the nuggets and you're fun at the same time and engaging and smile. You're rolling.
There's no perfect, right? We all learn that there's no. But that's what you learn.
I think you do that so eloquently because like you are so authentic to you and just it's not creating like, okay, this, I think a lot of pressures and you're teaching students. So you see that it's like, okay, camera's on. And then it's like stiff mode. I mean, I remember going through that a lot. Like, oh my God, you just like, you go black.
Getting comfortable takes time. Yeah,
yes, it is.
And then it's nice when you have that comfort level, right? Like you have now. I mean, it's just easy. Then it's just but you don't know what you don't know. So when I tell students. When
did you feel like you were like finally in your own, like in your skin, like doing things at that comfortable level?
It sounds weird to say it, but because it was like 12 years into working here. But when I did go to the day-to-day baseball and more responsibility when we went to 150 games, when I got the call from our friend Margarita, like, hey, you're going to do a lot more baseball and we need you to do this and this and this. And it wasn't until I did shows like almost every day that I felt that I was truly at the most comfortable level. Like I was comfortable before, it was different than the first few years, but I think that getting the reps every day is a big deal. And then when you listen, you spend a lot of time listening to coaches and players. And when you start to understand their mindset and you start to understand from almost putting yourself in their shoes, your job becomes a lot easier.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that like, but it kind of is. I mean, you can put yourself in, because it's a human game too. It doesn't mean I have to know how to throw a split changeup or something, right. Or a sinker, or have a new pitch, or or make a tackle. It's not about that. It's about the human side of it. And when you understand that person's personal, whatever issues are facing them day in, day out, it makes the job actually easier. So.
Yeah. And now you get to be a professor at ASU and teach that upon what you were already doing as my mentor, but now you have class full of students who are eager to learn. And what has been the biggest takeaway from that experience so far for you?
It's interesting. And I know it's funny, like on the broadcast, Steve Berthiaume will say professor, but I don't think I'm actually a professor. I'm an adjunct faculty or whatever, a faculty associate. But it's been fun really getting to know a lot of these students and seeing them go on already. I've been teaching since 2019. So seeing them go on and do pretty cool things already in their young careers is very gratifying. And I think what I learned, we went through a rough patch in the pandemic where students were not very engaged. And my class this spring 2023, so props, it's about wrapping up soon, very engaged. It's like I have a really good feeling about everything being a little bit more back on track, because I was seeing kids that I would go to one of our assistant deans, Melanie Alvarez, and say like, what do I do? I'm such a mom here. Like I'm emailing, like, where are you? Are you okay? And I mean, I think there's an element of that, but obviously if you think a student is in danger or is having a major problem, every teacher, professor would do that. But for me, it was almost like micromanaging these people's lives. And I'm like, okay, she's like, okay, you have to be able to let go a little bit, you can't. And I'm like, and I think a lot of it was just, they were all a little lost in the 2020, 2021 coming out of it. But I'm glad it's over, because that's just, maybe that was my class is Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. So it is hard to get up and go to that class. That is another thing that I do understand. You might not be having any kind of crisis. Maybe you just slept in. Yeah. So college. It is college. And so, it's fun to see, and it's fun to kind of I look at them sometimes like, oh my gosh, I remember that, So, but they're the good and the bad. But it's really cool to see them develop and get better and better. And when we have them do live shot, I have them do live shots more than even the anchoring, because I feel like talking like we are right now, ad-libbing, being able to ask questions without having like glued to like a script.
Right.
It's very important. And so when I have them do more of that than anything in the class, and I see the difference from the first one to like the third the third video they send, it's way better. And so that's a victory in itself. So,
well, what's interesting too, and what I've always admired about you too, is you came here, you weren't married, right?
No.
So you met your husband here, marriage, kids. It's like you're growing up and going through these huge milestones while also pursuing your career at the same time. Like, how did you manage it all?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because when I came here, I think I was 26, and I met Chad at an ASU game, actually. I was walking into the stadium, and he would throw an alumni tailgate back where, this is before the construction where the light rail went through. So it was like right in front of the stadium. And he had a chocolate chip cookie and a seat cushion from like Family Day or whatever it was they were giving away that day. And I was like, who's this guy? I asked a friend of mine who happened to know him, and I'm like, who's that guy? And so that's kind of how that whole thing happened. And found my husband at the ASU games.
The ASU tailgate. Go Devils.
Yeah, I was going into work, and so I really didn't see him after that. But then I think like the next game, one of the games after that was like October of 2002. Okay. And then
so kind of quickly after.
Yeah, and then I went to a game for fun with that same friend that I was like a mutual friend that we had a connection. So then like I got to hang out with him a little bit. So, but yeah, I mean, and then I remember thinking, so we dated for a while. We got married in 2005. And then it's like, I knew I wanted to have children, but always that fear of how am I going to do this with the job and everything. And you live that too. And you have 3. And I know 2 was a lot for me. And they're 2 years apart. But I think having them close together is really nice. They're good buddies, and it'll be good. And it is good now that mine are 14 and 16. It works out pretty well. They get along pretty well. They have similar friends too in high school. It's kind of cool. It's kind of neat. But, it's always been a juggling act, and it works out. Props to my husband, because he just has been always, his schedule's been more flexible than mine, and he's had to kind of create that though too. I'm not just going to say, well, it worked out that way. He's had to sacrifice certain things to have that more flexible schedule to be there for the kids especially when I started traveling in 2012. So that was an emotional time. I remember it was really hard to go away and, leave them and be out of the loop and stuff. And
oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be like crying on planes.
There's crying. Yeah,
there's
a
crying. Lot of tears.
And then to be honest, and then my parents who, they had me when they were 40. So they passed away in 19 and 20 at the age of 86 and 87, my dad and then my mom. And that was really hard too, because when I would go away and I don't want to cry.
We knew we'd have some tears.
And you and
here.
I talked a lot about during that time. You were always checking in on me, and I really appreciate that. Because that's just who you are, and you're honestly one of the most genuine and sweet people that I know.
Yeah,
so, and I've always known that about you. So, and we talked about that stuff, and it was really hard. Yeah. So,
because it's like for me at least, and I know what we discussed. It's like when you are on the road, when you're away, you have that. Yes, your husband, absolutely, but also your parents there too. And I know they spend a lot of time with your kids as well. It's like that safety net that you have. Like part of me is still at home. I always say if I'm traveling or when I was doing the more often, it was like, okay, part of me is still home. I'm there. But it's that sacrifice you have to make. And you have to kind of gauge, you made it through the thick of it with the kids.
There'll be more hard times too. There just will be. That's life. But it's not a bad thing to get more used to it in a way. It's just when it's fresh to you, when it's new to you, have never had to do it, it's very difficult. And then you realize like it is part of life. There are people in my business especially I talk about baseball because it's every day. There are announcers, some of the things that they go and there are some around the country I'm thinking about in particular that have had their wife is ill, their parents or but sometimes it's someone really close like a spouse, and what they go through is so hard, and and they show up to work most days. Hopefully if they need to be home, they're home, but sometimes it's incredible what people go through and have to kind of power through. And but the workplace is also more understanding, I think, these last few years too. of family and of needs at home. So that's been a good thing.
We went through the COVID thing. I mean, the pandemic and how much changed during that, can I speak, during that time. And I'll never forget, like, you and I hopped on Zoom calls. We were doing shows from, you're in your home. I was in my home. And it's like, what is going on here? Like
and the first year we did that show, it was so fun kind of being all together, drinking our coffee and,
literally pajamas, bottoms down.
Yeah, it was funny because football season is always like it's hot in September. And then by December you're doing shows and you're all like bundled up and you're drinking your hot coffee. And then like to be on Zoom was kind of hard, but it was, the show goes on. So
yes, I can't even the morning scramble. I was like, what show was that?
Scramble.
See, I'm like losing it already. It hasn't been that long. The morning.
I know for a minute. I was
like,
I think it used to be like Monday morning scramble, but then I think because the dates would change at times, now it's like scramble.
We just scramble it together. But that was so fun. But I mean, a lot changed of how we had to show up as in doing our jobs, everything remote or at home, and you had to do. Were you doing D-backs broadcasts? Like, how would that work?
What we did was the home games initially, there were no fans.
Right.
Which was really weird. And we couldn't go down to the field. It's actually funny just talking about this, like trying to remember how it was. And I remember, you wouldn't see the players except on a Zoom call. And I remember one day I walked in and like I saw Christian Walker walking by. They had like their COVID testing set up. And I was like, hey. And it was like, oh my gosh, hi, nice to see you.
Yeah.
You take for granted that you were in these locker rooms for 20 years and now you can't go in and talk to people like, how you doing? Or how did this go? Or the Zoom calls were fine, credit to the PR departments for all these teams having to do that, but it's not easy. And
it's not, it's specifically what, you do. It's so much of, again, is building those relationships with the players. A lot of like the storytelling you get to know and find out that when you're in, the locker room with them, you're engaging with them. And that is not present. It was not present during the pandemic. So it's like so much that you would usually pull from as nuggets or storylines and things like that.
Oh yeah, and especially with baseball, where you need a lot of stuff
so much
every
material.
day. And I didn't really have a lot, to be honest. And so we were hosting the pre and the post. Mark Grace was a great help because he initially was only doing home games and he was able to do, and Brandon Webb, of course, as well. But Webby does a little bit, like the home slate is enough for him. He's got the younger kids and stuff and a lot of stuff going on in the summer with them. Gracie's kids are now both out of high school. So he stepped up and he did something like 130 games. And so it was really entertaining because he's such a great storyteller and so much fun to be around. So, and Webby did his share of the games and did a great job as well. But that kept us going with the shows. The road, at home though, just remembering the games going on and no fans. And I remember one night, like they tried to do something creative with the end game. It was like, not Baxter, but Rattle On, like the saying, but like it was Rat Leon, and it was like this rat costume and it was like there's a rat running around and it was
my gosh.
In a costume. It was like a mascot, and it was just that was entertaining to me because there was literally no one else in the stands. It's like this is what it's come to. I'm entertained by this guy in a rat outfit.
We did some weird things in 2020, right?
Yeah, weird things. And then on the road, we were not traveling, which again created that detachment that was really hard. And so we would just do those from Chase Field also. We would do those from, So props to Scott Geyer and the group with the D-backs because a lot of places have a studio where they could just do it, but that was our studio. That was literally, so they would, Scott and some of the other staff would be there with us to, open the building and let us do the shows. And so
wow,
it was crazy.
Such a time. What is that time?
Same with hockey, similar too.
Right.
Just again remembering the empty arena, and then they let like 5,000 people in, and that was interesting. It was like,
and then who knows what the future, honestly, what it will look like, what will hold with sports media. I mean, so much now is the social media, is the quick hit, is the viral person that can dish out a video and we're like, wait, we went to school for that. It's so crazy how much it's just evolving and changing. I can't even imagine what it'll be like in 10 years from now, honestly.
I know, you're right. That's always what's wild is because you had to earn kind of a spot for someone to see your work or see your video
Our
production.
reels.
And now anyone can do it.
Yeah.
You know, our kids can do it. Maybe yours are a little young, but it'll come soon. Trust me. And it's like, it's just different.
Yeah. What are you loving about this current season that you're in with your kids now in high school playing sports and just, you know, with work and everything? What are you
It's
loving
really
about
good. It's an exciting time. Connor is a junior.
Blows my mind.
He just got through a pretty good junior season. He plays quarterback at Corona del Sol. He had like 2,300 yards, 22 touchdowns.
And I know you're
I can
that
name
mom.
all the stats.
I know you're that
completion
mom.
percentage, you know, just throwing that out there. So we've had a lot of schools that are pretty interested in him. So waiting for some offers to come in, and it's been really good for him. I love seeing him. He's really good at talking to, you know, coaches about different things and learning how to
train him. You're like,
I think he's just watched, you know. A lot of times I'm like, wow, I really haven't, you know, but he's watched a lot. And when he was little, he wanted to, what did he used to do? He used to want to interview me.
oh,
You know, or like I'd interview him
Yeah.
or, you know, different things like that. And so, and then my daughter is 14. She's a freshman at Corona del Sol. She's playing on the JV and the varsity softball
Amazing.
team. She played volleyball. The best thing about the volleyball season, her being her first semester in high school, and she just met so many friends. She still has her friends from middle school. And then she met new friends on the volleyball team. And it's so cool. Like, it's just so cool seeing her have all these different groups of friends and everybody gets along. And, you know,
it's just so crazy to me.
not a lot of drama.
Age.
Like, there's
Yes.
drama in middle school more than for girls. I feel like the drama's more like elementary and middle. And then you get to high school, so far at least. Knock on some wood. Where's the wood here?
Right behind you, girl. That
I'm gonna
beautiful
knock
wood
on-
pan.
No, you know, like, because I know it probably will come, but
Yeah.
so, and it's fun.
What's this perspective for you now? Because, I mean, you know the game in and out. You know, I know I'm going to be that mom already. At soccer for these 3-year-olds, I'm like, focus. What are you looking at? Like, I get so mad at
remember
myself.
soccer. Soccer's just don't even
stresses
think
me
about
out,
it.
Jody.
Literally
It
go
stresses
take an
me
iced
out. I
tea,
can't.
you know,
Me and
take
my
a
husband
snack
are
and just
like-
enjoy, because it does not matter yet.
I know.
It
I'm
will
like,
matter
have
someday.
fun, sweetie. But I'm like so mad at him when he doesn't.
Oh, I know the focus. My
down.
daughter, when she played with her friend, and we were like, she's literally like the butterfly chaser.
Yes,
you know, it's
yet
just-
that's what they would do. Yet we played indoors. So I'm like, what are you staring at? What are you looking at? Like,
funny.
focus on the ball.
It's so
But
cool. It's just fun for them to run around.
yeah,
so.
I know. I'll be better. I promise I'll be good, Jody. But, you know, from your perspective now, you know, you have so much passion in sports first and foremost, and now to see your kids coming up and thriving in their respective sports, and what is it like for you just to sit back and kind of watch it all play out and see what maybe the future will hold for them in their
It's good. It's a little you know, it's weird because it's not that nerve-wracking though, because it's just, I know what will be, and I think they're in good shape, like with their own control of it. You know what I mean? Does that mean we help them? And, you know, my husband's really dialed in with a lot of that stuff too. But he's in contact with people on his own. He reaches out to different coaches, teachers. You know, he's also, you know, we were talking before we went on the air about, I'm so sports infused, and I didn't mean to do that to my children, but they truly are by their own choice. They love it. They love sports. They follow all the teams. They enjoy it. But they're also, you know, I find myself more and more trying to teach them about finances or teach them about the news out there going on. And they have learned about politics, I think, a little more than you and I probably did when we were growing up, just from the nature of the political, you know, climate. So they have learned some things and they're aware, which is good. But, you know, life is more than sports. But at the end of the day, I don't feel too bad about it, because sports is really fun and it brings people together. And you can make a career out of sports, even if they're not playing or on TV or on the radio. You know, you can make a lot of different, you can have a lot of success in your career if you want to go into any type of sports career, the business of sports, PR and marketing, you know, community relations. There's so much. You and I have met so many people that are part of that. And you don't necessarily have to be in front of the camera or on the field. So
what would be your advice for someone trying to break in to the sports scene? So maybe little Lisa who came up to you in the bathroom. It
I
wasn't
remember
such an
that
awkward
old,
environment.
Wells Fargo,
Yes.
now it's just, a little
That
bathroom
one
there. Yeah, that one
bathroom.
little
It was the
bathroom. And you'd
perfect
have to
bathroom.
wait for people to come out. Like you'd be
So
like,
that's awkward.
when are they coming out? Who's in there?
Hi, Jody Jackson. I want to be like,
I have to be on the air in 10 minutes. Someone's in the bathroom.
Exactly.
Doug Tamara, what's going on?
Doug. Oh my gosh, good times. So yeah,
My
what would your
advice?
advice
Yeah.
be?
I think, don't limit yourself. I think hopefully I told you some of those things. I think the one thing that I even would have told myself is to trust yourself, because my message to people is always so much about you have to prepare, you have to work hard, oh my gosh, you won't succeed unless you do all these things. But on the other hand, on a more positive, those all feel kind of negative, and on the positive side, also trust yourself though. If you feel good about like what you're doing, the information you have, when you do something, don't be afraid to trust it and really, really speak it or do it with confidence. And so I think because I lacked that in the beginning, a little bit, I was a little bit tentative or a little bit feeling like, I don't know. It's funny. I look back because it's like, obviously it's worked out for me. I'm doing what I want to do. But I wasn't the most outgoing or confident person in the beginning. I felt like I had to earn it, which is good. I think it's not a bad thing, but
Yeah.
And talk to people. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Those are some of the things that I tell people. On the other, there is that, I don't want to say negative, but that sort of motherly side of me too. Like a lot of people, students, I say, don't bite off more than you can chew, in that, like, if you feel like you're not quite ready, you always want to tell people, say yes, go out on that limb, go and do it. But if you're not quite ready, maybe hold off, because it is such a big first impression these days, if you do a broadcast or something and it's not something you're quite ready for, that's the first impression. Doesn't mean you can't, we all, like, I look at myself, I wasn't good in the beginning either, but
I've had some times.
The internet wasn't a thing though then.
It's not forgiving. It's not, and that's kind of like my follow-up question in that, because there's so much, and I don't even pin it just to being a woman, but quite frankly, it's like there's even more pressure sometimes just to like make sure you say things correctly. And there's
a little more of a proving it type of mentality.
Yes, the prove it mentality, and the comments that you get back to just like delete it.
Yeah, and that wasn't around in the beginning of my career.
Right.
So I do see a lot of young women, and you're not one of these people, but that will battle on these social media sites with people. And my advice is, where am I looking in here? Please don't give these people time of day. Don't battle these. You cannot worry about.
You could say the word. You could call them something.
Don't worry about what they think.
Yeah.
And because and also there's crazy stuff out there. That's also the part that wasn't existing when I was coming up. But the other thing is, if you and I both know, we've all done that live shot that isn't the best, or we've all done that. But if you are good to people, you work hard, you appreciate the people around you, you will get another chance. It's not like it's the end for you. You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I remember completely bombing one of my first D-Backs broadcasts ever. It was like a live shot. And it was literally the stupidest.
I don't know if I remember that.
No.
But.
Oh, you'll remember maybe. But it was something where, and I'll never forget this, and this is what made me like the over-preparer, like no matter the information, Baxter came up behind me and distracted me.
That's
like
the worst.
Literally right as I was about to go live, like Rita's in my ear, 3, 2, 1. And I'm not prepared in that element yet. Like I'm still
that's very nerve-wracking for a young broadcaster when you get counted down and it's like boom,
go.
You're going.
Yeah, go. And it was a live shot on, I think they were having an event that weekend, like some band, I didn't even know. But it was one that I just really didn't prepare for the shot. I'm talking about a band? Cool.
Yeah.
Like whatever. Boom, literally went black. Like, I don't even know what I said. And I do remember coming up to you after that game, because I just never felt what I could settle into the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're in a flow and you feel good. You get that live shot done. And then everything's like, oh, you're going to rock this show. No, that was not the case. I mean, I remember like literally being in tears. And after the game, walking with you. And I'm like, oh my God, I ruined it. That's my chance. But it's true. It's like if you keep showing up and working hard and, good to people, and you show that eagerness, it's one live shot, one mistake.
It is. And I do remember that now. And you continued on to do Coyotes broadcast. You filled in for me on Coyotes when I went over to. So you get that next chance, and it's so much better that next time.
Yes.
And you learn from it. And that's what I also tell students is like, you do think sometimes, oh yeah, I got this, I know it. But if you don't envision what you're gonna, I always tell people, don't memorize, but you have to own the information that you have. Don't just gloss over like, oh, this is a piece of it, I'm going to forget this 10 minutes later. No, you kind of have to cement it into your brain, and then, but we all learn that on the fly. You don't know till you
don't
do
know
it.
until you screw up.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you over prepare like crazy. But I mean, that's what I've always loved about you, Jody, and just how you're just so insightful. You do the work, you show up all the time for everything. And it's just, I mean, it's amazing to see just your hard work and where it's led you today.
And it's every day though. Like tonight we have a hockey game. So it's like every day is, nothing's guaranteed, right? So like I might be, I did a great show yesterday, but if I don't do the work for today, then it's, so.
Yeah. Well, you keep doing you, Jody. We love you so much. Thank you for stopping in on our
This has been so fun.
We could literally have like a 2-hour podcast.
I'll bring you a pot pie again soon. I'll switch it up. Maybe something different.
I'm hungry already. Thank you. Well,
thanks,
thank
Lisa.
you so much. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast. You let Donor know that we want him on the
I will.
pod soon.
I will
tell him tonight.
I'll tell him. We'll let him know.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Lisa.
See you next time. Bye.